and development team will give a short presentation, and then directly after we'll have about 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A, for each team. And then we'll have sort of an open house format at the end where, we have these boards set up where you can come up and have one-on-one conversations with the developers, the architecture teams, and, sort of learn a little bit more about the work. And, we're going through a process of trying to, kind of narrow this down and select a, sort of finalist. That project will then move forward through development and further work. So you're not going to be done seeing us at the end of this process, that there's more work to do with that specific design and development team over the coming, year plus as we move forward. So I think with that, I don't know if, is Tori or John? I don't know, Tori, I think you just walked in. I think team 1 is up first. So Tori or John, I don't know if you guys want to take it away and get going. Or David.
Well, first of all, good afternoon. Welcome to Hyatt Park Career Academy. Pleasure to be here with you guys tonight presenting on our particular project. And so the Imagine Evergreen group is excited about the opportunity to have a development in the Woodlawn area. As we know, a lot of things are happening in Woodlawn. We're sitting across the street from the Obama Presidential Center, which is going to be a huge investment for this particular community. I'll turn it over to my team in a minute. What you see on the slides, I've said it at the Woodlawn Summit. How many of y'all, by show of hands, were at the Woodlawn Summit? Okay, great. So you all have already seen and heard our particular pitch. My name is Tori Barrett. I'm a principal in Imagine Development Group, most notably known for the work that we're doing in the Washington Park community. Own and operate the Clio Community Center, an organization that I started after losing my baby sister to senseless violence, and we do youth empowerment. So the mission of the organization is to eradicate violence by bringing opportunity to those in need. For this particular project, you can see on the screen the rest of the team, but as I said at the Woodlawn Summit, we went through a planning process, presented a project that we thought was indicative of the Woodlawn community. However, through community development, we've learned that regardless of what we present, it wasn't inclusive of the community. And so again, if awarded this project, we're going to take a step back. Everything that we present tonight is really irrelevant. Just being real that we went through this process in the Auburn Gresham community. The community didn't like what we presented. They said, hey, we want to take a step back. We felt like what you presented is good, but it's not what we want to see. And so from our standpoint, if selected as the winning team, it starts over from scratch. We sit down with you, we have a series of community meetings, and collectively we come to a consensus of what you all want to see in this particular community. And so with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to David Block to talk a little bit more about, at least from this standpoint, what we're presenting to you tonight based on what we presented to the city.
Thanks, Tori. Good evening. I'm David Block. I'm the Director of Development for Evergreen Real Estate Group, and Evergreen is partners with Imagine Development. So Imagine Development is Tori Barrett and Fred Spencer here tonight in this project that we're calling Woodlawn Rising. We also have members of our design team here, and so John Ronan is our architect, very well-known Chicago architect. You've probably seen his work around town. And then Sarah Egan is here from Design Workshop. They're urban designers and landscape architects. Wanted to go through this real quickly because we really like to leave time for questions in here. So I'm just gonna, if the clicker will work. Is the clicker working? All right, I'll just say next slide, please. we stuck? Oh, did we skip? Let's see. Can you go back to slide 3, please? Is that slide 3? Okay. So as Tori mentioned, our starting point for working in any community where we're working in Chicago, elsewhere, is to really understand what the neighborhood wants to see in the project that we're talking about. We've learned that just showing up with a design and saying, here it is, this is what we want to build, is usually not a great recipe for having community get excited about the project that we're doing. And so, as Tori mentioned, this is the process we went through in Auburn Gresham. We had a lot of workshops, we had a lot of conversations with the neighborhood. We sat down, we did the exercise with laying out the maps, the little foam core blocks that people move around and say, what do you want to see? Housing, what other kinds of uses do you want to see? And let's talk about density. And it worked out well. So the neighborhood initially didn't like the process, didn't like the project that we had. And I think we're never going to make everybody happy, but at Auburn Gresham, at the end, a lot more people are happy with what it is that we're actually building down there. Next one. Oh, okay, all right. One of the aspects of our work that is very important is wealth building strategies. And this is one of the things that we've done. Tori has done in his work at the Clio building, which is at Garfield Boulevard in Michigan. Fred is working on it in a sort of wonderful entrepreneurial way in our Auburn Gresham project, and we propose the same thing here in Woodlawn, that the building needs to address the opportunity to build neighborhood wealth. And one of the ways that we'll be doing that is through the creation of a new daycare center space, because in order to have a good job, if you've got kids, you have to have good daycare for your kids. And so there's a neighborhood daycare provider who has agreed to be part of the project that we're doing, and we're providing expanded space for that daycare program. There's also some additional retail space, and we can answer some questions about that when we come back. Next slide, please. Fred, why don't you talk a little bit about IO?
Sure. So in Auburn Gresham, IO's incubation center and kind of head office will be in Auburn Gresham. It's about 5,000 square feet space for us. So IO is a company that my wife and I started together. It's a West African inspired brand. You can actually find our products at Target and Mariano's. As you can see on the screen there, the delicious West African inspired dishes. So we started IO with the intent to bring the flavors in the community of West Africa to the U.S. And so we started in about 50 Whole Food stores during the pandemic, and we've now grown IO into over 6,000 doors across the country. So very excited about coming to Auburn Gresham with IO.
Next slide. An important part of this is who is going to build this building. This is an area where I think our team really has a focus, creating significant opportunities for local hiring, for local subcontractors. In Auburn Gresham, we made a specific point of hiring a minority-owned general contractor, and in reaching out specifically to minority-owned subcontractors. And so our goal is to not just exceed the city's 26 and 6 requirements, but actually exceed those requirements by quite a lot. Next slide. And then there's design. We really believe in great design for all Chicago's neighborhoods, which is why we brought John Ronan, who is just a fantastic architect, together with our team. This is one of the projects that Evergreen has done. This is on the north side at the one of the 2 library housing projects that we did under the previous administration. And we did the other project that has a library in it with John's firm. Next slide. John, why don't you talk a little bit about your work at the Gary Comer Center in particular?
Yeah, hi everyone. John Ronan, I'm Principal John Ronan Architects. Good evening. We've done work all over the south and west sides of Chicago. I'm the architect of the Gary Comer Youth Center and Gary Comer College Prep in Granite Crossing, which we've had an ongoing relationship with. Also the architect of South Shore High School, Hyde Park, Akiva Schechter in Hyde Park, and then on the west side, Christ the King, Jesuit College Prep in the Austin neighborhood. We are also one of the finalists for the Obama Presidential Center down the road. Unfortunately, they picked the wrong architect, but there's nothing we can do about that now. But through our work on the south and west side, we've had, we know the drill. For the Comer Center that's on the screen right now, we had a pancake breakfast every Saturday to get input from the community throughout that design process for several months. And so we know what it means to put in the time to get the community on board, because we want it to be a successful project for everybody, not just for the design and development team.
Next slide, please. And then there's Design Workshop, who really focuses on the landscape and public realm aspects. And Sarah, do you want to just say a couple things quickly about this?
Hi everyone, Sarah Egan here. Design Workshop is really a company that's based in a process that we refer to as a workshop. So we're named after literally the process that's being described here, and we really embrace bringing the community along and embracing the public realm of 63rd Street, really making it the neighborhood street that it needs to be.
Next slide, please. And again, this is the other library housing project we did. This is John's design. It's the Independence Library. Next slide, please. This is the building that Tori did, the Clio Arts Residences on Garfield Boulevard. Really fabulous, striking building, affordable housing in the community. Next slide. And this is a rendering of the project that we have now under construction in Auburn Gresham. This is on 79th Street. We have two buildings. So the first building is, I don't know if there's a laser that goes with this. Yeah. So this looks like two buildings. That's actually one building. And then our second building is down the street at 79th and Halsted. So if you drive by there today, you'll see an active construction site. We were actually the first project to cross the finish line in the Invest Southwest program. We closed on our financing at the end of last year, and we're now actively underway. Next slide. And finally, I showed this slide. This is before I joined Evergreen, but I was the residential developer of the shops and lofts at 47th and Cottage Grove. So bringing, and this was a 6-year odyssey to get this project done with a residential partner. So we spent a lot of time working in North Kenwood, Oakland neighborhood to get that project from a really great vision to the reality that it is today. Next slide. So in the interest of time, we're not going to really spend a whole lot of time talking about the building, but John, if you could just really quickly go through and give a couple of highlights of the building, and then we'll give folks in the audience a chance for some questions.
DPD asked us to not only look at one building, which is, this is the building we're going to show you there on site one, but to give a vision for 63rd Street, East 63rd Street. And so our vision is about creating kind of nodes down the street, so the buildings actively create these public urban spaces here. Next slide. This is an aerial view, and you can see how these community nodes, so these would be lined with retail and public amenities. So not a continuous line of retail all the way down 63rd Street, but punctuated nodes created by these buildings with public spaces and amenities and retail. Next slide, please. This is the ground floor plan, so you can see how our building deliberately slides this element back to create this proposed urban plaza that stretches across 63rd Street. So our building is kind of like a loaf of bread that's in 5 slices, and then those slices are kind of pushed and pulled to create this urban plaza, and then this is the residential entrance here, and then spaces on the back of the site, as I'll mention in a minute. Next slide, please. This is the ground floor plan. So here we have the urban plaza. This is the daycare element here. We have a playground that is accessed directly from the daycare, a fenced-in playground. This is a retail element to activate this kind of urban plaza space. This is the residential entrance here, so you come in, there'd be a management office here and a community space, which is kind of a community lounge for the use of use of the tenants. And then lobby and parking of, I want to say, 39 cars. Some of those are inside and some are outside. Okay, next slide. 18 units per floor, each with their own balcony. These are 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. Next slide, please. This is a view looking to the southwest. So this is the daycare on the ground floor here. This is the retail entrance in this element, and down here is the residential entrance. Next slide, please. This is the residential entrance entering into the lobby here. We're looking to the east down towards the new presidential center. Next slide, please. And then this is a cutaway view through our urban plaza, which is located here. This is the daycare center, and you can see the playground beyond here. 3 floors of double loaded units, and then a tall loft space on the top with amenities like storage, fitness room, and a deck, communal deck for the tenants. Next slide.
So I think Tori will take us home.
Sure, and you know, I just want to be clear, like one of the reasons that you'll see from our design and the difference in some of the other designs is that we have a track record of designing buildings that we know that we can, close on. It's very important to be able to close on your financing of a project, and so we've been able to do that. As David mentioned, we're the first and only Invest Southwest project that actually closed and have shovels in the ground. We're very proud of that. And so a lot of reason that we're referencing the Auburn Gresham community is because we did that. We presented a project in Auburn Gresham. The community said, we hate it. Like literally, they said, we hate this project. We hate the fact that the city told you all to design this project, and we had to take a step back. It took us 3 months and a series of 17 community meetings to come to consensus with the community of what they wanted to see. And that's what we're trying to do in this particular area as well. We presented a design with John and his team that we think is something that we think the community wants, but ultimately you all are going to be the ones that have to take ownership of this project. And so, you know, we're ready to take that step back. We're ready to have those community meetings. We're ready to look at the local entrepreneurs in the area that want to own and operate businesses. We want to make sure that the workforce for this particular project is indicative of the residents that live in the community, and that's what it's all about for us. And so we're happy, honored that we're one of the finalists to present, and we look forward to working with you all through the rest of this process, if selected, to move forward in this particular process. And at this time, we'll take any questions that you may have. I'm not sure.
Sorry, I forgot to mention this. If anyone needs translation services, we do have that as well. So just wanted to make that note. So Tori, go ahead.
All right, so I guess I'll just walk with the mic.
I have questions, but my questions are for all the presenters, and I'm wondering if it makes more sense for me to hold my questions.
She says she has questions, but it's for all the presenters, and she's wondering if it makes sense to hold her questions to the end, so that's fine. We have another question right here.
Thank you. Hello. I'm sorry if I missed this, but this says that you have strong relationships in Woodlawn. Can you just share who are those relationships with?
Sure. So myself, the Clio Center is an organization that I started again that's located in Washington Park, but we employ over 300 youth between the ages of 16 and 24, and they are employed directly from the Washington Park, Woodlawn, and South Shore community. I also started the Economics South CDC, Emerald South CDC, which is the executive director is Guion Foreman, chaired by Mike Straumanis from the Obama Foundation, which focuses directly on investments in the Woodlawn. We also have relationships with the University of Chicago, the Network of Woodlawn, and several COCO and several other organizations within Woodlawn.
And I'm also a recent, well, up until a couple of years ago, was a resident of Woodlawn. I talked about my company, IL. My house was right across the street from the proposed development. So is a brownstone right at the corner at the alley that I actually sold to start IO. So, so we use those funds to get IO off the ground.
So very deep roots in the Woodlawn community, and we'll continue to work in that particular area.
So, on your building on Auburn Gresham, did you provide any play space outside the building for the residents and the children in the building? You got a playground or an athletic field or what?
So, yes, we have several spaces. I'll let David talk a little bit about that first.
And,
then I'll
and,
do.
and let me just also add, so if you're going to have a daycare center, which may be badly needed, is it possible if the daycare center is not going to be open on weekends, that the playground of the daycare center is open to those in the building and maybe even people in the community?
So, answer your first question first about our Auburn Gresham project. We do have, we have two sites in Auburn Gresham. The site at the corner of Halsted and 79th is pretty tight, so we didn't have room for outdoor space there, but the original RFP site is actually a pretty big site. And so we have a pretty good sized playground that's available for residents in the building, but actually it will be available for the broader community in our Auburn Gresham, and we have money in the budget to build out the playground. So we're thinking that's going to be a nice amenity. The question here about whether the playground that we're showing that's associated with the daycare will be open to the residents is a little trickier, because if that daycare center is going to get licensed, it can't basically be open to everybody. It's got to control its own space. Maybe, we'll look into it. If it's possible, certainly we'll look into whether that's something we can do.
Good evening, my name is Tara Madison, I'm a resident in Woodlawn. And my question is about your statement that you've shown that you can close on financing, you have the financial capability. Given what's going on now with the increases in taxes, I know a lot of these projects are funded through the low-income housing tax credit program. Can you tell me how that will affect you and future developments for Woodlawn?
So you're absolutely right that okay, well, yeah, so the suggestion is maybe DOH could answer the question, but I'll answer the question from our perspective as developers here. We are reliant on the low-income housing tax credit program, and that doesn't directly affect Chicago property taxes. In fact, the low-income housing tax credit is a federal program. But what we have seen, and this is the challenge that we saw at Auburn Gresham, is that the cost of construction has become out of control, frankly. And I'm sure that the Obama Center is seeing that now. We show people in some of the presentations we've given, when we started the Invest Southwest program, we had one building, and we thought that we could build that building, including paying the architects and paying for insurance and all this other stuff, for about $20 million. By the time we closed on our financing and actually broke ground and started that project, we had two buildings. We were up to $48 million. So more than a 100% increase in the cost of the project. We think we've baked that into our numbers here, but we're pretty experienced at addressing these things and kind of rolling with those punches. So we think we can make it happen. I don't know if that answers your question exactly, but.
Yes, I guess expand a little more about keeping the integrity of the property up to par for what the community would like versus coming into the process then there's a bunch of cost cutting here and cost cutting there, and then we lose the integrity of the project.
Yeah, I'll just speak to that real briefly. So, and one of the reasons we wanted to bring John Ronan onto the project is even back in 2018, when we did our two library housing projects, and John was one of the architects there, back then the world was a little more under control. This was before COVID, but we were $3 million over budget, and we worked our butts off for about 6 months to pull that out of the project. And I would challenge anybody, go up to Elston and Irving Park and go look at that building, and you can't tell me that that building looks cheap. That we maintained a really strong design for that building, even in the face of cost overrun. So I think that's something that we're pretty good at. Gerardo.
just really quickly, Natasha, you're our only DOH rep that I see with a mic in their hand. Would you mind just, because I think folks need to understand from the city's perspective, some of the, allocations that we're making, or at least on the DOH side, with the QAP, focusing with Woodlawn as a community area, and kind of our expectation of the process, because I think the question kind of begs that answer a little bit.
So I would recommend writing that one down, because that is a thoughtful question, and make sure that I have the appropriate answer for it. So make sure that you get one of those sheets that records that answer so we can have it for you.
Good afternoon. My name is Quandra Spades, and I am a resident of Woodlawn as well. I would like to thank the DPD as well as the Alderwoman's office for hosting this meeting this evening. So I actually have a couple of questions. One is, I'm happy to hear and understand that drawing up a rendering isn't enough, and it does take the community input, because the architect design that you all have up there really does not reflect the historical Woodlawn community, and you may want to partner with a local architect. But my question is, was it a reason why you didn't have community meetings prior to putting up your rendering? And then also, how does this incubator space, can you talk a little bit more about the incubator space and how it will impact the community?
Sure. So one, John Ronan is a local architect, so we do have a local architect on our team. I think one of the only teams that has a local architect. Two, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, we can't speak to the process that was in place of how we got to this rendering. However, as a development team, through our experience in Auburn Gresham, and we keep talking about Auburn Gresham a lot, because that's where, to be honest, and excuse my language, we got our ass kicked from the community. They said, this is not what we want in our particular area. So we took a step back. And we had meeting after meeting, charrette after charrette, and we really want to understand from the community, what do you want to see happen? How do we make sure that it's inclusive of your vision, not just our vision as developers? One of the things that we pride ourselves in, we're not coming into a community, developing, and then leaving that community. No, we're rooted, we're invested. Fred put his business in the Auburn Gresham community. I opened up a second Clio in the Auburn Gresham community. I also own a restaurant called the Park Supper Club. We're opening up another restaurant in the Auburn Gresham community. And so we're vested in the communities that we develop in. As far as your question about the open space, the daycare has been open and operating in Woodlawn for several years. They're the first ones that came to us and said, hey, we understand that you all are trying to open up something in the Woodlawn community. And so we're open to any other business owner in the Woodlawn community that would like to see development happen. We're interested in having those conversations with you to incorporate you in our development. We have another question here.
In regards to the incubator spaces, how do you go about selecting individuals that will be able to bid on those spaces, or is it going to be open to any one of those Woodlawn residents first priority?
Definitely Woodlawn residents have first priority, but I think how do we figure out what's the best fit for the space is through the community charrettes that we've had. In Auburn Gresham, we had some people that stepped up and said they could do X, Y, and Z. As we got through the vetting process, we found out they didn't have the infrastructure in place to be able to open those places, so we partnered them with other organizations, also partnered them with the City of Chicago's Neighborhood Opportunity Fund to say, hey, you have a project that you think you want to do, let's go through the vetting process, see if we can get funding to help you stand your project up. And that won't be any different than this project that we're presenting.
Thank you.
We have another question over here on the right-hand side. And I think
this may be the last one because I know we want to get to the next group, but we will have time at the end to have sort of broader question and answer with folks in the sort of breakout sessions.
So my question is, I was really thinking about this on the way over. We talk a lot about affordable housing and what they'll look like with the design, is it a part of y'all team to like process or vet like the Woodlawn residents or those that's been indigenous to our community be able to actually rent, like, and be in the buildings? Because it seems like there's a long process for affordable housing anyway. Like, people could be on a list for 10 years and things like that. So do you all have something in place to make sure those that are willing and ready to access this building will have the opportunity?
Yeah, so a couple of aspects to that. This project will follow the Woodlawn affordability ordinance, and so a significant part of this building will be at the 30% area median. So it should be affordable for a pretty broad cross-section of the community. And as far as our marketing and outreach, we can't say this building will only be open and available to Woodlawn residents, but as a practical matter, we will essentially market this building only within this community. And so the people who will know about the units being open and available will be Woodlawn residents first. And hopefully those will be the first people who fill out their applications and get on the list and get ready to move in. This is also a mixed income building, so this is not 100% affordable housing, because we heard in some of the conversations we had that an income mix, so having people at the 30% level, but also having people who are paying market rents. It's about, I think, 15 or 20% market rate, so having that mix within the building we heard was important. All right, David, should we turn that over?
Thank you, David. Thanks. And so the Evergreen Imagine team, and we'll hand it over to DL3 Migrants.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing? Good, good, good. My name is Leon Walker, managing partner of DL3 Realty. We are a local community-based development firm. Got started in construction and development first in 1979. Right down the street, we developed the Developmental Institute at 71st and Stony Island, right across from the Starbucks that's there. And I used to be a kid that would catch the train right here at 63rd and Stony Island and go downtown. Both of my aunts taught here at Hyde Park High School. They retired here. One was Janet Jeffries. I was talking to Mr. Fields about that earlier. And the other one was Brenda Harrell. Ms. Harrell was the librarian, and my aunt was the math teacher. So I grew up in and around the neighborhood. This is like personal for me. We've also been very active on the development front. We brought the Jewel Osco to 61st and Cottage Grove. That was our first development here in the neighborhood. We also just finished the Friend Health Medical Clinic. So that's at 63rd and Cottage on the northwest corner. And we're under construction right now with Park Station Lawns, which is at 63rd and Maryland, one block off. And that's with our partner, Michael's Development. I think Greg Olson is here with us. Greg Olson, fantastic guy, and committed to this work. We also built the 4400 Grove project. And Greg and I go back to Michigan where we went to undergrad. So I've known him for a lot of years. He's the real deal, and he's getting things done. When I wanted to get into housing, I'm mostly a commercial developer. Some of you might know our work with Blue Cross Blue Shield out in Morgan Park. We bought a call center, or Discover Financial Services in Chatham. We bought 1,000 jobs for our Chatham Discover Center. But anyway, when I wanted to get into housing, I got with Greg and bringing the best. Michael's is one of the largest, most respected, and most accomplished housing developers in the country. We've got an outstanding team with us too. Our team, Jaime Torres, MBE, local architect, as well as Stephen People from Toronto, Canada, flew all the way in, bringing his expertise and knowledge to this project. And I have up here with me as well, BJ from Sunshine Enterprises. Sunshine Enterprises, if you don't know, is an entrepreneurship and it's a ministry, but it's an social enterprise that really helps develop the entrepreneurial businesses in our community. And you've had, what, 200 or 300 go through there, the programs at Sunshine. And I think we may have 1 or 2 Sunshine graduates and entrepreneurs in the audience tonight. What? Oh, they're not. Okay, all right. And listen, we are working every day, and we're about the work in this neighborhood, in this community. We have the Washington Park Bank building, which you'll be hearing about shortly. We're also taking that project on, and finally taking that derelict, dilapidated, long vacant building and bringing it back to life, preserving the facade and bringing new jobs and opportunities to our community. So we are excited about this Elevated Ellis exercise and development plan. We have a video that we're going to show you. So I just want to do a short introduction. It's 73 units. The most important thing that I'm really proud of, because I believe in entrepreneurship, is that we have 11 live-work lofts. Anybody here heard about a live-work loft? You know what a live-work loft is? So basically it's this. We've got a lot of folks that want to start their businesses. And they'll start their businesses in their garage, their basement, their second bedrooms, things like that, right? And matter of fact, you know, people know that black and brown people are the most entrepreneurial. They start more businesses at a higher rate than any other group of people in the country. But the challenge is that when you start your business in your apartment, in your garage, in your second bedroom, in your basement, you know what? That's tough, right? So then you try to take your business out, then you have to pay rent on the storefront. So now you got rent at home and rent on the business. Well, Live Work Law brings that together, so you have a commercial space that you can have your customers come to, but then you live upstairs. So we're bringing that. That's the first new concept that we're bringing to the South Side, and Park Station is the first one to bring the Live Work concept. Started by artists, by the way. Artists started this concept many, many years ago, where they could live and work in their space, and now we're expanding it to commercial businesses that can now have a place to live, but also have a place to work and to meet their customers. So with that, click and let's hit it.
Our team of celebrated community builders, Michaels, DL3, Canopy, Teeple Architects, and Sunshine Enterprises, have come together to envision an exciting project. With community feedback, our plan allows residents to step into a thriving community of driven entrepreneurs and step up their businesses while improving their quality of life. Welcome to Elevated Ellis, where commerce meets community and dynamic public space meets engaging commercial uses.
Elevated Ellis offers a design that will promote entrepreneurship while also building community. Exciting, yet responsible architecture that brings to life an expanded public realm at the intersection of 63rd and Ellis. This includes high-quality housing, live, work, and pop-up retail spaces, and vibrant gathering and outdoor dining spaces. Our focus has been to bring these key ingredients together with a strong design concept that will create a memorable addition to Woodlawn.
Elevated Ellis is, a new interpretation of Woodlawn's historic character. We have a lot of room to grow. But in order to get there, to bring that activity back, to bring back the prosperity that we all want to see, we need density. Here we have a 6-story building, and that 6-story building is taller than some of the remaining buildings that are in Woodlawn. But if you look at the Washington Park Bank building and the regalness of its facade, if you look at the Strand Hotel, many people don't realize or even remember that Woodlawn was a bustling, hustling environment where 100,000 people were living. We have to bring density back to the heart of Woodlawn.
Our vision for the site includes high-quality apartments with live-work units, serving diverse income levels and various unit sizes and styles. Elevated Ellis will house dynamic community gathering spaces and retail opportunities for established operators, along with smaller spaces for Woodlawn entrepreneurs at each stage of their growth process. Local entrepreneurs will have support and technical assistance services through Woodlawn's Sunshine Enterprises, providing a tiered step-up concept to lift the lives of area residents.
Elevated Ellis offers 73 units, of which 11 are live workspaces. These flexible live workspaces are located on both the first and second floors, and they really offer a unique opportunity for tenants to interface with customers as well as offer additional housing. The remaining 62 units include 1, 2, and 3-bedroom apartments. All apartments will house a variety of income levels ranging from 30% of area median income all the way up to market rate. Following the guidelines of the Woodlawn Preservation Ordinance, this ensures that residents of all backgrounds and income levels have a place here at Elevated Ellis. Building amenities will include a fitness room, a community room with a rooftop terrace, on-site management offices, one-to-one bike parking, and lounge and laundry areas on upper floors. Ground floor retail will round out these amenities with a restaurant and brew pub, micro retail opportunities, and a flexible pop-up retail area alternating mid-sized retailers throughout the year. Sunshine Enterprises will work with its Community Business Academy alumni network on programming and leasing this retail space.
Small business, entrepreneurs provide the lion's share of jobs in our economy. What we've been lacking is the entrepreneurial class.
Sunshine Enterprises was born out of a necessity and desire to support rising entrepreneurs within disadvantaged communities in order to help start and grow their business. We provide training and coaching so that they can build better businesses, better communities, and to restore their local economies. Once graduating from our Community Business Academy, all our entrepreneurs are entitled to the Business Acceleration Services. These services include marketplace readiness, revenue generating programs such as the one being offered by DL3 and Michaels through their retail, live, and work opportunities. We also have the data to say that these types of economic solutions can positively change the trajectory of our entrepreneurs.
But where do those entrepreneurs go? We're so excited to be able to provide those types of opportunities at a cost that's affordable in a quality Class A environment. Live, Work, Lost provides a transition for those entrepreneurs' vision and their dreams. Then they can move into a commercial space and grow their businesses even more.
For example, we have identified a restaurant and brew pub operator, Vice District Brewing, the first Black-owned brewery in Illinois, as an operator for a larger restaurant space with a beautiful outdoor deck and patio.
Vice District was designed to curate community, which is why in our tap room we offer communal seating and games, creating a family-friendly environment for all. Vice District has successfully operated a tap room in Chicago and looks forward to not only offering our great beers to the community, but also a diverse and tasty menu, and we look forward to welcoming you in our doors for fellowship and a good time.
Community needs to have a quilted fabric of people, of businesses. That's what makes it exciting. Existing businesses, legacy businesses, have an opportunity to thrive, but also entrepreneurs can scale up and they can introduce new products, new services, and then grow those products and services into business opportunities that serve not just Chicago, but beyond. Creating places where you can build wealth, but also serve.
Michaels has a really robust track record in diverse general contracting and subcontracting. We've worked obviously over the past 20 years to develop some strong relationships with both JV general contracting situations as well as minority contracting. We've awarded over $130 million in subcontracts to minority-owned firms in Chicago. And one example of that is 4400 Grove, which was completed in 2020, where we awarded 40% of the subcontracts to African-American subcontractors.
Consistent with the Chicago Department of Housing's competitive bid process and the proven track record of DL3 and Michaels in identifying diverse suppliers with an emphasis on Black-owned construction companies, we, on this project, will also identify diverse general contractors for the construction of Elevated Ellis.
The Elevated Ellis project is intended as a catalyst for change within the community of Woodlawn. The project is intended to provide activated spaces through retail, housing, and other uses to become compatible, but also invigorating and hopefully inspiring for the whole community. Our inspiration for the project is tied to the idea of textiles and African-American folk art, in a way stitching the corridor like a fabric or tapestry for the community. Another example, also apartments, a project that really tries to introduce the notion of the street and the building edge meeting and introducing both art and community through one gesture.
How does one create exceptionally high quality, affordable housing on 63rd Street? Start off right. Keep it simple. Start an efficient and cost-effective built form. Use the architecture to stitch the street back together, creating a consistent street space along 63rd. Animate this street space with a fine grain of activity that relates directly to community needs. Bring this space to life with active uses, outdoor dining, create exciting views into multi-level spaces to animate the street, a 2-story restaurant, 2 levels of live workspaces. Bring 63rd Street to life with the life of the building. Express the concept of stitching the street back together with threads of color that subtly weave through the facade pattern. Create an architecture that is resilient, low carbon, energy efficient, and most importantly, livable.
At Elevated Ellis, Woodlawn residents will find outstanding amenities and resources to uplift their lives and thrive, to step up their businesses, all while building a home.
Thanks all. Now we'll get into questions. Please, when you ask your questions, make sure to speak up so that we can hear them, because we're also transcribing them into Zoom as well.
Thank you for sitting through that. That was great. Elevated Ellis is the name of the project. Got a great team up here. I'd like to have everyone from the DL3, Michael's T-Pool Canopy team stand up. Thank you all. I'll give them a hand. This is a lot of hard work. I just want to recognize them for putting in so many hours into this effort. Really proud of it. Thank you.
So, Leon, it's a nice concept, some interesting things. But Mr. Olson, how do you explain the union busting of the Michaels Company? Why would SEIU be out there giving out information about your firms having been a union buster on janitorial services?
I'll try to answer that. We've built about $200 million worth of work in Chicago, and it's all been built by union contractors, as with this project as well. From a maintenance standpoint, this building would probably have, management would probably have 1 property manager, 1 assistant manager, 1 maintenance person.
Let me start by saying, Woodlawn, you deserve better than Michael's organization. The Michael's organization, will you honor maintenance and janitorial standards in Chicago? That's the question. I ask this because after taking over 2 CHA union properties, you made them non-union. Making them non-union, you left seniors in the cold last December at Albany Terrace Apartments. You displaced 8 workers and their families. These are union members. These are union workers. Some of them have worked at CHA, some of them currently work at CHA. We want to know why the Michaels organization, not anyone else involved with them, but the Michaels organization, we are holding you accountable. We have reached out to you. We have asked you to come to the table. We want to make sure CHA affordable housing and public housing remain public housing, and make sure that those workers that maintain those buildings and clean them have living wages, affordable benefits, and a retirement to be able to live for the rest of their lives. Michael's organization, we are going to hold you accountable today, from day 1 in December until you come to the table. These are union workers. These are a small few. We will see you often and be ready to see more. Please reach out to us. I will stay around and we can have a conversation if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone in the Woodlawn community, we pass these out. If you scan the QR code, you will see why the Michaels organization is not good for Woodlawn. There's other cities, other states who have had issues and have sued them for the construction of their buildings. Take the time and read that. Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate it. So listen, right to work. You guys, absolutely. I don't think Greg is here, he's on the development side, so you're talking about the management team, so we'll have to make sure we get some folks to respond to that on the management side. We're all here about living wage. Chicago has a minimum living wage.
Living wage, you know that.
Well, Chicago has a minimum wage, in effect, and I can tell you that all the projects have been built with union labor. Okay, I understand. So that's a different question for a different group, but we appreciate you.
Like I said, Michael, not you.
Okay.
DL3, I understand that.
Okay, well, thank you. We're gonna move on.
Good evening. I'm a resident of Woodlawn. I do live in a senior apartment. My question is, I'm looking at the design of the unit that you're proposing. You did state that there will be different levels of income for tenants. Now, my question is, if you're stating 30%, with that building, how many units would be available to persons of low income, maybe, and that's supposed to include seniors, also handicaps? What about veterans? And also, with all the, you mentioned the amenities that they're going to have in the building, maybe swimming, maybe you might have clubs where they have spas, or they might even have access to, they don't even have to go to a spa, or either go to somewhere where they can exercise. Now, I know persons with the upper level of income are using these facilities. What about the persons with the lower incomes of 30%? Are they going to be able to use these facilities, or are they only going to be available to the persons who are paying regular income, for instance, and not just paying 30% or on the lower level, just the ones who are paying market rent?
Thank you. You know what, your question goes to the heart of why we're doing this work. So the Park Station development I mentioned at 63rd in Maryland is the first new building to meet the Woodlawn ordinance. And the Woodlawn ordinance was a game changer. That's, give credit to Alderman Taylor. I'm not sure if she's here, but Alderman Taylor, with the Woodlawn ordinance, was a game changer for the city of Chicago. And that's how you blend, incomes. Woodlawn, we all can recognize as a community that's in transition right now. You've got $700,000, $800,000 homes. You have legacy residents. We're trying to make sure we respect and honor both. I believe that a community is stronger with a quilted fabric. We need entrepreneurs, we need artists, we need students, we need working families, we need seniors, we need veterans. It's a stronger, more resilient community when you have that. When we concentrate in one or the other, that's when you become susceptible to some weakness in the future when the economy changes. So a resilient community is a diverse community. And that's what we're about building here. So that's why you see the units have market rate. They have some units that are dedicated to those that are earning a percentage of the area median income. But it's really about building. No one building can satisfy all of the needs of the community. So we have to build on success and keep on delivering and then addressing those needs as we go along.
Because I think, Leon, I think her question was about amenity access, and is the amenity access the same for everyone who lives in the building?
That's an even shorter answer. Yes. No, it's a. That's a short answer. The answer is yes. Yes.
Okay. I want to say this evening to the young man from the city that presented and opened, as well as the team one that just presented, you guys, and when team 3 comes up. I hear everybody thanking a department, a public official, but there was a large voice in this community that you all have been in partnerships with and who was on the ground running before partners got brought to the table. And that is the Woodlawn community, that is STOP, that is the Alderwoman's office, and a few other community-based organizations here. So when you guys say thanks and want to give accolades to how far we've come, I'm gonna need you to include the Woodlawn community in that. I would really appreciate it. Because it took 8 years or more to get that housing ordinance that you speak about. And that was the community members that got it to that point, got it voted on, got it passed. And like I said, some of you have been speaking with a number of us for the last 3 to 5 years. So don't forget us now when we've been get to a point to get something really started, because we're not going anywhere. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great point, thank you.
Hello? Excuse me. Why don't you also say how many of the units would be affordable under the Woodlawn housing ordinance? Like how many units will actually be truly affordable to people in this community?
Thank you.
So it varies, I guess, but our general approach is about a 70-30 split between affordable and market units. It might go as much as 80-20. It kind of depends on how we break it out. But the Woodlawn Housing Preservation Ordinance does mandate that a certain percentage go to 30% AMI, which is very low income, a certain percentage of 50% AMI, which is low income, and then the rest would be made up with 60%, which is kind of the workforce, and then beyond that would be market, and market is really just what the Woodlawn market bears. So probably of the 73 units, somewhere between 20 and 30% would be market, and 70 to 80% would be affordable.
Okay, we got a lot of questions.
There's always that one dumb question. I don't get it. See, what I don't get is, when I grew up, they said that there were 7 elements that made up a thriving community. A church, a school, a funeral home, a grocery store, restaurant, bank, and a playground. I don't see any manufacturing entities in this menagerie that you're talking about. I don't even understand how you're going to stuff entrepreneurs into a building, and what exactly are they supposed to sell or create? You know, there's only so much that can be put into one space. So I guess my question there is that, how do you really expect people to pay for this if it doesn't make sense? There's no bank, there's no school, there's no church, there's no funeral parlor, and I just don't understand it. Can you make it make sense?
Yeah, and so the way I distill it down is 3 things. You're 7, right? So when people are choosing communities of first choice versus neighborhoods of last resort, they're looking for the 3 things, right? They're looking for where are my kids going to go to school? And I think we have new schools that have been, different varieties of schools here in the neighborhood. They're looking for where am I going to shop and eat? So you mentioned grocery stores. We brought the Jewel Osco here, and now we're bringing other retail. You mentioned, so where am I going, how safe are my streets is the 3rd thing. So how do we get streets to be a little safer? Well, one is we got to create job opportunities. The biggest way to reduce some of the wayward crime that we have is providing jobs for youth. Now, some of the work we do with Chicago Cred across the city is we actually help them, and we have facilities where Chicago Cred is our tenant. And so we believe in violence prevention, and so part of what this is about is economic development. Okay, so we have job creation. The second piece is not only are we providing quality living spaces that respect people, okay, we're talking about design excellence. This is not, the stuff that we saw 30 and 40 years ago. You've got stretch rooms and business centers and decks and all that. So this is really nice, high quality, respectful housing for all. The next thing is providing entrepreneurship opportunities. How are we going to create those business opportunities that are going to really help lift up our community? Now, starting a manufacturing business, I mean, we all know where manufacturing has come and gone. That's part of the reason we are where we are on the south side of Chicago. We lost all the steel industry out on the southeast side, and that started a cascading effect of other businesses leaving. But we've got to start back again with entrepreneurship. And I believe that giving people that transitioning space so they don't have to pay 2 rents is the way that you get the person who has a professional service business, whether they're selling insurance, an accountant, or a travel agent. I mean, they all have a space where they can also work their business and live and not have to pay 2 rents.
I was just going to say, I think maybe there's 8 things.
7 to 3 now.
Yeah, no, and the 8th is vibrant streets that are active public spaces that bring the community together. 63rd historically was a draw for the community. It was an active place. Everybody went there to do everything every day. And the whole raison d'etre of this design is to front 63rd, to line 63rd, with live work, with retail, with a dynamic restaurant, to really define an active public realm, a safe public realm. That's why it fronts the street, where it expands the public space. It expands the public space at the corner of Ellis to even add more vibrancy to the street. So it's making a thing beyond the building. It's making a vibrant community space that when the community comes, there's things to do, there's things to see, it's engaging, and it's a huge draw, and it's also extremely safe because the building is designed so that eyes are on the street. People overlook the street. It's their shared communal space. So the building is going beyond and creating an 8th thing.
Very good. BJ, do you want to add anything on the entrepreneurship?
Really quick. There's a couple of entrepreneurs here, Gigi and Christy. Raise your hands, please. These are entrepreneurs from the community, in the community, that aspire to grow their enterprises for the purpose of job creation. So, you know, I am excited to be partnering with DL3 and the Michaels organization for the purpose of supporting these entrepreneurs such that they can grow their enterprises for the purpose of creating jobs in our community.
There's going to be some time at the end as well.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, resident of Woodlawn. My question kind of follows in the same vein as the gentleman before me. This bank has maybe one? Like this entire community has maybe one bank. It's all the way over on 66th Stony. It's not in the heart of the community. Banks are pretty much what supports a thriving community. If you want something that's going to live beyond the life cycle of this development, what are you going to do to ensure that? Do you have a partnership with a bank? I see a lot of partnerships with restaurants and breweries. That's nice, that's fun. They come, they go.
Love the question. You know, what's going to actually be, we've developed a number of banks, but what's actually changing the banking space is physical banks. They're changing, they're getting smaller, smaller footprints. We don't have the banks that we used to have that were large physical edifices. Matter of fact, I'm gonna give you a stock tip and I'll let it go with that. Is I believe that a cell phone company is gonna acquire a bank before the end of this decade. We're all banking on our phones. And so there's almost no need to go into a physical branch. Now, what we do need is mortgages. What we do need is lending. And so we can talk more about how we make that happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Michaels DL3. Move on to our last, but definitely not least, team, Bill and Bill with KMW and Paul.
Thank you. This should be quick and concise, and hopefully all our plans and ideas come across clearly. We all can go eat. So I'd like to introduce our team. It's KMW Communities. Cool. We got Tandem Ventures here, who's an employee specialist, and we have local architect HEG here, and we have some of our virtual architects on the line, and I think our contractor may be on the line too, who is Powers and Sons, who is a Black-owned firm that's also assisting with the Obama Presidential Center. So can you go to the having a little technical difficulties. But while he gets that together, I can give you a little background on myself. Chicago native, working in Woodlawn for about 17 years before the OPC, before the Invest Southwest, and we will be here after Invest Southwest and after OPC. And our goal was to improve the housing stock and work alongside of POA. They were delivering hundreds. Well, at the time, it was probably about 1,000 affordable units, and we started working on the market rate to kind of balance the neighborhood. And so so you can just go through the slides, and I'll just try to catch up, so that way we don't have this disjointed format. So our development objectives were to create a new destination. As some of the other teams mentioned, or I think Leon said that, we want to create a new attraction. We want to create improved housing. We want to grow without displacing folks. And that's why I also chose to partner with POA. They delivered, thousands of units, probably close to 2,000 in Woodlawn, preserving affordable housing. And it was a third-party study done by DePaul University that showed that people were not displaced by the growth in Woodlawn. And we also focus on community and resident wealth creation. So when we approached this too, we took into consideration of design excellence elements, which includes equity and inclusion, innovation, a social space, sustainability, and community. And so the building it's kind of inviting the community in and creating spaces for all and interacting with the street. And we also, as I mentioned, we wanted to create a destination. And so, the neighborhood is evolving. It has a great location, and that's another reason why we're attracted to this neighborhood, because it had everything. It had transportation, natural assets that are not, you cannot recreate the lakefront. Transportation, hardly any neighborhood in the city has a metro or a green line within walking distance. And we want to create, I think it's the next slide, we want to create an experience and leverage that experience to create this destination. And we want to brand Woodlawn as a place where people can come and have these experiences. They can come, frequent, allow the neighborhood to grow, bring economic dollars in, and leave. We want to go to the next slide, and we want to talk about how this new model and how this building evolved into what it is.
Thank you, Bill. Pleasure being here all. So our concept, you'll see, really transforms the idea of the commercial block. So rather than having a supermass, our intention was to be inspired by the rhythm of the residential community just to the north. And so you can kind of see in this graphic, when you look at the history of brownstones and side yards, we've changed the orientation, and we've actually oriented our building as a series of 5 forms perpendicular to the street. And the purpose of that, to Bill and to Juana's point, is to create 9,000 square feet of publicly accessible plaza space, really bringing the neighborhood and the community in rather than having a mass on the street. And the intention there really is to create this indoor-outdoor amenity space, these activated public plazas that are open to all residents. You don't have to come and buy a coffee. This is a park within the city. And it really is the first, ideally, of many catalysts along the corridor.
Thanks, Patrick. And, and this new model creates the social interaction of folks and people, and which allows, creativity, which allows, ideas to share, which allows
people to build relationships and trust. The next slide will show, more of a up close look on how the street would interact with the space. Justin. Next slide, please. And so, as you can see, it's commerce. It's also sitting. It's also it's inviting, and it's pulling people in, and it allows people to go out. So the building is dynamic in that way. And as Patrick said, we didn't want to create a super mass on the block that overshadows the street. So like you go down some streets like LaSalle Street in Chicago, it's dark. So this allows sunlight to come in from all directions. And so these commercial spaces, we partner with a couple of restaurateurs to start with. One, you can go to the next slide, please, Patrick. It's Egg Rolls Inc. She's a Woodlawn resident, and I think she's in about 50 stores around the city, and she wants to open a cafe, so we're giving her an opportunity. And 50/50 Group is a more established restaurant group that's all over the city that wants to, bring some of the ideas to Woodlawn. And Tavern on the Grange, I don't know if anyone's been to Tavern on the Grange, but it's highly recommended to go out there. It's a live entertainment, really good food. And so we decided to start with this to kind of activate the street and allow tourism to come and frequent the place, and also provide a service for the Woodlawn residents. Like the lady said, this project is also for Woodlawn residents. It's for Woodlawn residents to have services so they won't have to get in the car and go to 53rd Street or even further south or further north. And so with this concept too, we created wealth creating opportunities and transition opportunities for residents. So our software that we're using, the management software, as the tenants pay rent, it will report to their credit. And so that allows families to stabilize and get prepared for home ownership. And if they get in trouble, there's a philanthropic loan program that will offer 0% interest as a last resort. And this also ties into the work that Paul is doing, and we did some of the work too on, what's the program, Bill? It is NHS's program that it's a buyer pipeline readiness. And then it's Renew Woodlawn Part 2 that will be happening soon. So we want residents to go from renters to homeowners and not be perpetual renters. And there's another wealth creating strategy that we would like to employ in this project. It's called like a community investment vehicle, where we will pool investments from the community to buy into the commercial spaces, so the community will actually benefit from the ownership of the commercial spaces. And we also talked to some of the restaurant operators that are also open to allowing the employees to have stock options in the business. So this is sort of a wealth creating system. It's systematically wealth creating. It's just not to provide services, but it provides wealth creating for the tenants and for the community. So these spaces would actually could technically be owned by the community as well. And so we also, so that's the other slide. Could you go to the next slide? And so we also partner with Tandem Venture. Tawana's here, who is an employee and a compliance specialist.
Good evening, everyone. So you will often hear me say that construction cannot happen successfully without the community, and that's a fact. So this slide behind me says community engagement. It should read community inclusion. Inclusion creates a shared experience that happens at the onset, while the engagement piece is something that happens later down the line. So Tandem's role in the community inclusion process is ultimately to continue to leverage our experience and expertise that has been garnered here, specifically in the Woodlawn community. So that's including creating, continuing to sustain those opportunities for those residents of Woodlawn. So in that, we want to focus on two key components. That's MBE, WBE, and opportunity creations. So if we look at the MBE, WBE, we want to couple that with site diversity. So MBE, WBE, of course, the city of Chicago has very standard MBE, WBE goals. And as everyone said this evening, we're going to not just meet those, but we're going to achieve those, but in a very strategic and intentional way, as we have always done, and that has been proven consistently across the projects that we have managed. In addition to that, we want to ensure that we're creating those mentor-protege relationships and those joint ventures between those small and emerging firms. So we want to ensure that we're creating that growth and scalability for those emerging firms so that they can participate on their own on construction projects. And then the site diversity piece. No one in this community should ever walk or drive past a construction project that's happening in this community and they don't see themselves reflected on the construction site, right? So that's very important, and we want to be very strategic about that as well. And then the opportunities creation piece. We want to make sure that we are providing those opportunities for individuals from the community to work on the project site. We want to make sure that we're engaging the businesses that are domiciled here in the community, understanding their capacity, what value they can add to the project. And then ultimately, when we look at the opportunities piece, we want to create apprentice sponsorships and really creating career pathways, right? And we do recognize that not everyone has an interest working in the trades, which I support and recommend. However, we will partner and have consistently partnered with those individuals that we have relationships with off-site to create those opportunities for individuals in the community. And I think just bringing it back to the transparency piece, one thing that we do is extremely important because we understand our accountability to the community is after month 3 of construction, we create a monthly report that communicates all the project demographics. So if you want to know what contracts have been committed, the values of those contracts, we create a report that includes that, the demographic makeup of those tradesmen that have worked on the construction site, the overall spend for MBE, WBE firms, et cetera. That's extremely important. So when we talk about being good community partners and creating a transparent and inclusive process, that's something that we view as our give to the community. So those reports are distributed to the to the project stakeholders, and so it will be on file at the 20th Ward office. So any community resident that has any interest in viewing those reports can actually go and see them. So that's it for community engagement. At this time, I will turn it over to Bill.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the building features and the program of the building. The building is 60 units, and 60-unit rental and 10 for sale townhomes. And we also included 26 parking spaces because we know as the neighborhood grows, there will be a need for parking. We didn't want to overlook that and assume that everyone would take the train. And now I'd like to turn it over to Bill Eager, who has been a trusted developer in Woodlawn for more than a decade, and he will highlight some of our work in Woodlawn.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, everybody. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I just wanted to talk a little bit about our team and our team members here. You know, we have a long and I think successful, we at KMW have long and successful track records in Woodlawn. You know, Bill's been working here for, I think he said 17 years. We've been working in the neighborhood now about almost 15 years, and we've been working with Tawana as well for the last several to maximize our MBE hiring. So in that time, between our two firms, we've probably developed about 1,400 apartments at various income levels. Those done mostly for sale. We've done mostly rental in that period of time, but you know, we alone have closed, I think, 10 transactions in Woodlawn. So we've got a long track record here. We have a lot of people who work here. We have a lot of apartments here, and we are here for the long run. Among our two firms, Given when we started working here, we were also among the first developers to really invest substantially in the neighborhood, really probably in decades, and that work continues. And we're very, very proud of that. In addition to the housing that we've done, I should mention that, we've developed or co-developed, 90,000 plus square feet of commercial space and community spaces. We've done a number of small businesses on 63rd Street and on Cottage Grove. We also partnered to develop the Metro Cross facility at 61st and Cottage Grove. We provided the land for the Jewel Osco that was mentioned earlier. That's just a little bit about our track record here. And we also manage everything that we own. So, when we do a development, we're not just in the ownership for a long time, but we are here, boots on the ground, at all of the properties that we develop. Oh, I'm sorry. I should look up once in a while, shouldn't I? So this is an example of some of the work most of the work that we've done sort of collectively across Woodlawn. Some of those are POA properties, some of those are KMW properties. Again, a mix of rental. Bill's done a lot of market rate for sales. We also did this, the circle there in the bottom was a Renew Woodlawn, which was a home ownership effort that included reclamation of foreclosed homes. We did 45 of those, and we're going to start another phase probably this year. And so as you can see, we've had impact sort of all over Woodlawn. I would point out kind of in the middle of that where it says grocery store, that corridor there of Cottage Grove is really where we started. That used to house something called Grove Park Plaza Apartments. Here it is. And so we have pretty much, rebuilt this entire corridor. We obviously didn't build the grocery store, although we did put in the land, but we've been a part of sort of everything else that's gone on here in that corridor. And so we're very, very proud of it. We have, as you can see, leveraged, $500 million or more of new investment in the community in that time. And we've done it proudly. I'm proud to say we have done it without displacing anybody. I mean, it is in our DNA to do development without displacement, and we remain committed to that.
Thanks, Bill. We can open it for questions now.
Yeah, I think we're going to do a couple of questions and then we'll break out into the sessions. I see, here we have 1, 2, 4.
So, you all mentioned that you all will be building townhomes. There was, okay, I'm gonna say the rumor. There was a rumor that when you all came to do development prior to that, you all promised the community townhomes before, but as the project got underway, the townhomes weren't produced. Is that going to be rectified? Can you speak on that?
I'm sorry,
So some of the Woodlawn community members, as I got the history about, I'm a resident of Woodlawn and I'm very involved as much as I can be. And from my understanding that, and I think that goes to Tara's question as well, as the projects go underway, do you all plan to not include things that you promised the community? Because it was a history of it or someone reported it before. So I just want you to confirm or deny that there were previous townhomes supposed to be built and they weren't built from a different project.
I think you're referring to one of the Inspire Woodlawn projects, and you can trust that what POA and KMW said they're going to do, they do is trusted in this area for a long time. But I think you're referring to Inspire Woodlawn townhomes. We delayed that project because of price escalating, and we didn't want to accelerate the cost of housing in the neighborhood. So we're waiting to the market kind of cool off a little bit, and then we will start it up. So we're planning to start that maybe in 2024.
So one of the things you mentioned was the ESU program. And it was a little bit concerning because it goes off of credit. And so a lot of individuals, well, I guess I would ask, can you opt out of that program if someone decided to move into that building? Because as we know, people do fall on hard times. And I do know that you mentioned the 0% loan program, but what if you don't qualify? So what if you can't pay your rent and you're in this ESU program, how will you qualify for a loan to maintain that
So the
property?
loan is a sort of a lender of last resort. So, and it's a one-time thing. So if you have a hardship, we will evaluate your hardship and determine if you qualify for the one-time loan. If it's an ongoing situation, the one-time loan won't help you in that case.
So how can you opt out of that program?
Well, I think it's, we haven't figured it out yet, but that's a good question, and we definitely will consider that. I think that's a good question. It's not mandatory.
Thanks.
Well, I would like to thank Ford for being a valuable partner in Woodlawn, but as a Woodlawn resident, I do have a question about gentrification going on. So Woodlawn is gentrifying in a very high rate. So I like your welcoming component, but how do you make sure that the welcoming component that you just showed us will make sure that it goes to current Woodlawn residents and not from people coming from outside the community into this community?
That's a good question. I think that the current Woodlawn owners deserve and should get some of that appreciation and value because they've, experienced property value haven't been increasing much for decades. And so, hopefully prices will go up enough for those residents to benefit. And that will, create generational wealth in which they can use it maybe to get a second house in Florida or something, or send a grandkid to college or start a business or whatever the case may be. And we're trying to create a space for everyone. And so with the Renew Woodlawn Phase 2, it's primarily going to be geared towards preservation for folks who want to be an owner. And part of our program is to hopefully, and our partnership with NHS, is to build a pipeline of residents that want to be owners. And so they would go through NHS's program and be buyer ready, and NHS will also set them up with all available city grants. And I think so much VOH is here, there's a number of grants that's tied to the Renew Woodlawn program.
I am a current Woodlawn homeowner and I live very close to the proposed project. Question 1A, is your company qualified and interested in building affordable single-family homes? Because as I understand it, it is more lucrative to build high-density rentals. B, are you a construction company and a management company? And if you are engaged in management, does your management and maintenance team people required to participate in ongoing customer training and development? C, has your company locally, meaning in Chicago and across the country, sold any of your developments? And if so, how many? And how long did you keep the structures before selling them? And then question number 2.
Okay, I could.
Okay.
First question was. I'm trying to remember
Yes.
all the questions. So the first question is, yes, there's going to be home ownership for a variety of income ranges. The Woodlawn ordinance also covers any new development that's built on city-owned land. So there will be homeowner opportunities for us, a variety of incomes, which includes very low income folks, if they can get through programs to be able to maintain a home. And I think the other question may be for Bill.
Sure, I'll answer the best I can. So we actually have an affiliated, it's called Bow Communities, an affiliate property management company that we own. And so they manage everything that we develop. And they are constantly going through training to update their skills and their customer service work. We have a formal sort of ongoing training program for the people in poor communities. I think the other part of the question was how many properties do we own nationwide and how many have we sold? I think we own, I never know exactly what it is, around 130. You know, we own about 13,000 apartments in 11 states plus the District of Columbia. So we're kind of spread about. We have sold, I think, one building in 21 years. So we don't sell. We have no intention of selling. And so when we develop something, we intend to own it long term.
Thank you, and the questions are for the other companies as well.
Since I do want to give the sister a chance to ask, and then we're going to break out, and you'll be able to kind of go to each developer and talk.
Okay, so you don't want to hear my question too?
That was a lot. That was a lot. I got to give other people the chance. But I appreciate you coming prepared with the whole.
Thank you. My name is Savannah. I didn't introduce myself earlier. I'm an organizer, a housing organizer with Southside Together Organizing for Power, or STOP. We worked with the CBA Coalition to get the 52 lots into this ordinance. And so a question I have for you all, I did miss it for a second, and a clarifying question in general is, whoever is selected for this particular lot that the proposals are being shown for, is there a promise that they are also going to develop the rest of these 21 lots that we push the city to set aside, or is this simply a proposal for this? And I understand that POA has a long-term commitment to affordable housing. I wanted to know also if one, I think you may have answered this, when it comes to the townhomes and the market rent opportunities, are these townhomes going to be all affordable, more or less, with the loan opportunities? And yeah, I missed the slide that showed how many affordable units would be built on this particular lot.
I mean, I can answer the first part is, you know, this is just one lot. There are actually two lots in the RFQ, and the development teams could propose to build on one or the other. So that's all that the RFQ spoke to.
The 21 lots are not included in this RFQ. So that is specific to the two lots on 63rd.
And so the exact mix of the units themselves, I think you also asked about. I mean, we obviously intend to do a good share of them as affordable. We intentionally left that a little bit open in our proposal because, you know, we wanted to have that conversation with the community about who do you want to live here, you know, how many affordable units, how many units affordable to very low income people, how many affordable to people at higher income levels. So that is a conversation that, should we be fortunate enough to be selected, we would want to engage in with the community over the next several months.
Thanks everybody. I do want to give us a little bit of time for breakouts. We're going to get kicked out of here, around 8:05, 8:10. So I want a little bit more, folks. If you want one-on-one interactions with some of the developers, we'll be here. Each one of them will be around the boards. Folks from the city are here if you have questions for us. I do want to say that, really thank you guys for coming out. We really can't do this without the community input, to your point earlier, and I'm sorry I missed that. I got you. I live here too, so I'm with you on that. So really appreciate everybody coming out and giving us the time and feedback. There are additional places if if you think of something on the ride home. The questionnaire is still up online. There's videos from each of the developers. So there's still ways to get in touch with us and give your feedback. And we're really excited about this project and really hope to continue to move it forward. One last note I did want to mention, there was a question earlier about the QAP, and it is important to understand that there is kind of a focus on this RFQ within that QAP, and the draft I think is still online if you're interested in kind of understanding a little bit more about that. All right, thank you.